fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got tracks and he's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God!
Oh.
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Welcome to a new era of racing here on SimSpeed TV. This is the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. TCR cars finally hit iRacing. We're here for round one of coverage from Laguna Seca, and it will be an awesome, fun night of racing. We'll be here every Thursday night throughout the championship season as we go all the way from round one at Laguna all the way through to Phillip Island in this season. My name is Jay Kennedy. Alongside me in the booth for every race in this championship season, Brock Cat-Eye. Brock, we are going to have a fantastic season ahead. This is going to be some great racing. These cars are so much fun. Looking forward to seeing how it all plays out.
Good evening, everybody, and I am so happy to be back in the comms box. Let me just say that first up. It's great to be back, and for such an awesome series. The competition in these TCR cars has been mega this week already, and we've heard some rumblings in the SimSpeed Discord and on the iRacing forums about some great racing, but I think tonight we've got some of the best guys who have been setting the best laps in the world in this top split here for the strength of field, and I think we're in for a nice show.
Yeah, 100%. It should be really, really good racing. And qualifying is underway in our top split at the moment. And at the moment, Jake Maloney is the pace setter right now. Half a second ahead of Simeon Lynch and Joshua Anderson. Jackson Suzlin-Harlow in fourth. He won the first ever race in these cars, the first ever strength of field race, top split race in these cars. But Maloney's coming up to complete his second flying run right now. And we'll see if he can improve on his second lap. We've seen with these cars, the second lap is a little bit quicker, and Simeon Lynch has taken pole position away from Maloney. So will Maloney take it back? No. Does improve, but not by enough. Jackson Suzlin-Harlow goes to pole, though.
Yeah, Harlow is, I believe he's hovering around the top 5 in the world at the moment in terms of practice times in these cars. So he's been doing low 29s in those practice sessions. So it does not surprise me that he's up there at the moment. But you look at the competition right now, like first through 7, covered by 8/10 basically. And
Anderson.
in there, Anderson to the top with a 29.9. So that is great for him. This is what I was talking about before. And that second lap, Jay, that you mentioned, we've got to remember that this is one of only a few cars on the service that is on that V7 tyre model, which obviously needs a little bit more time to activate and warm up and actually come into that working zone to get those hot laps in. So these guys have got to think a little bit harder about how they wind up for a qualifying lap now. They can't just go all out like you used to in iRacing on some of these cars.
100%, and a very, very different car as well. Front-wheel drive, the second front-wheel drive car on the service. Of course, the Kia, been around for a fair while. Very, very different car. The only similarities really is that it's a front-wheel drive. David Haynes about to come across the line to complete his first flying lap. It's a lap that will put him in 14th position, so a little bit off the pace. Colin Klopman coming up to complete his second lap, currently in P5. Very, very strong strength of field for this race. Quite a few drivers that have very, very high I ratings out there, so it's going to be a very, very good points haul for the drivers in this race.
Yeah, definitely, and we're looking at nearly a 4.1k soft here, so a lot of talent in this server, and it'll be really interesting to see how we go over the course of the race distance, because we do have, it is afternoon conditions here. The track is 41 degrees, which is a bit hotter than what I've seen in some of the practice sessions. So we're looking at a pretty dicey track, particularly in those first couple of laps while the tyres do come up the temperature. They won't start dead cold, I believe, but you will have to be careful to just manage them across those first few corners, let them come up to temperature, and then absolutely go for it. So we do only have a half an hour race here tonight. which is important to note. It's a sprint race, no pit stops or anything like that. It is all out brawling out there on the circuit.
Exactly right. Every race in this series will be half an hour races for this season, so fairly short races, but that's what we love to watch in these sort of cars. Always really, really tight action. As you said, very, very hot track conditions, 41 degrees. But some really cool tracks coming up in the schedule for this championship as well. Next week we head to Alton Park. We've also got Road America, Donington Park, Phillip Island later on the championship. Really, really good schedule, which every single car that is in the schedule is in a real-life TCR calendar, which I think is really, really cool.
That is really cool, and we were just chatting about it before the broadcast. You know, you've got tracks from Britain, the greater part of Europe, America, Australia. You've got a really nice blend in there of all these tracks that you have different TCR championships, which is great to show the diversity that the TCR championships have across the world. You've got to consider this is what is considered a global championship now that we have TCR Australia down under here. It's pretty much touching on most of the major areas in the world now.
We'll run through the first starting grid for the Michelin Pilot Challenge here on SimSpeed TV. Starting from pole will be Joshua Anderson with Jackson Suzlin Harlow alongside, only a 10th behind. Then we've got Jake Maloney and Simeon Lynch, 3rd and 4th. Kieran Klopman and Samuel Randall in row 3. Row 4, Corey Preston and Nick Cummings with row 5, Sante Sencha. And then we've got Jimmy Ball, Emery Berkson, Adam Groves, Michael Kirkham, Dave Roberts, David Haynes, Scott Larnack, then Bern Habsnell, Slan Corella, Gustavo Conde, and Sergio Vicente. And big important things to note about these cars in comparison to what we have for TCR Australia is there are a lot of differences. The main one being is that the tyres are very, very different. The other difference being that we've got rolling starts for this series.
Yes, it'll be interesting. This does give an opportunity. I know I'm talking about tyres a lot, but I'm pretty excited by the V7 tyre model, and I think that it's such a cool addition to iRacing. But these guys, that the one thing that warm-up lap like this will help them with is the fact that they have that chance for their tyres to come up the temperature a little bit, do a bit of weaving, braking, however they want to bring them up, and that brings them up closer to racing temp. And you're right, for Australians, they won't quite see the same parallels that other series in the world will see to this TCR series. So I'm interested. This is the first TCR race on iRacing that I will have actually seen. So I'm very interested to see how this start goes and how it all works for the next half an hour.
You can see the aggressive weaving from all the drivers too to get heat into those tyres as quick as they can. Because as we said, they are running an endurance tyre, so they are a little bit harder than what we would see in a sprint series over here in Australia, so they do take a little bit more to get the heat in, but if they can get the heat generated in this warm-up lap, in this pace lap, it does mean that they have a big advantage early on. But the other downfall of that is if you get too much heat in the tyres too early, you're then going to pay for it later on in the race.
That's it. And one thing I wanted to touch on about this particular circuit, Laguna Seca, is we all know it, we've all raced it, it's one of the free tracks on iRacing, dirt. There is a lot of it, and there is next to no runoff at this track. So these cars, from my experience of testing them in the last few days, you hit the dirt, the front wheel drive takes over and shoots you straight. You don't have any control over the car, you have to come straight out of the throttle. So racing is going to be critical to stay on the black stuff. It always is, but with these cars even more so. And if you go off the track, you're either in the wall or losing a heap of spots behind. So you've got to be really careful and measured with where you point the nose of these cars and where you want to end up by the time you come out of the corner.
Yeah, exactly right. And the other difference too to the TCR cars we see running in TCR Australia to this series here is ABS as well. So these cars running Enduro spec have an ABS enabled. Of course, there's no ABS in the TCR Australia series, so that is the main differences we see and we'll see throughout this series. But fingers crossed we'll get some changes throughout the seasons as they go forward, and we'll get a little bit more realism. But we get ready to go for our first 30-minute race of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge through the final corner at Laguna Seca, and the green flag will find a great start from Josh Anderson. Jackson Suzlin Harlow straight away is going to feel some pressure from behind.
He is. The two guys behind him there, Maloney and Lynch. They're battling it out there. Susan Harlow's got a bit of a gap. He moves over a bit on Maloney there to cover him off. Just make sure that he's nice and safe there. But Anderson is out front with a nice little gap there. Watch the rest of the field coming through turn 2 here. Everyone seems to be pretty clean through there. That's really good to see. Everyone's pretty safe out of there. So we'll go back to Anderson and this battle up the front here. Maloney's looking very racy on the back of Susan Harlow here. He's got to be careful. These guys, their cars will be at different stages of being ready. Maloney's going to have a look around the outside here as we're coming to the hill up towards the kink. He's going to try keep it around the outside. Won't be able to do it on cold tyres this lap. Try cut back over, but Lynch is there trying to take advantage. Now they're going to go too wide into the kink. This is real dangerous, boys. One's got to pull out, and they did.
Oh, Maloney.
And Maloney off. This is the issue I was talking about earlier. All the positions he's losing. He's got to slow it right up again. He'll rejoin the track, but that is disastrous for the start of his race.
Yep, it's dropped all the way back to 9th. He's going to lose another spot here to Jimmy Ball up the inside, and that's move done. So Ball takes 9th position away. We've got a car around in the background. That's David Haynes, the Team Hujas entry. He's facing the wrong direction at the corkscrew, but I must say, great start the whole way through the field. Only a couple of cars having minor issues on the first lap. Some of the other races we've seen throughout the week have been really, really nasty with bigger incidents. We just see another car stop, the 16 car. Also another car slow there. Scott Larnack was also slow. But we go back to the front of the field. Jackson Susan Harlow is feeling a lot of pressure from behind. And have a look at that. Klopman, huge lunge, and around he goes. He's understeered straight into the side of Simeon Lynch, and Lynch has now lost a spot to Rendell.
I'm not sure what the game plan was there, but it obviously wasn't too good a one because he's been spun around on that. So yeah, Lynch has lost out on that one as well, which is unfortunate because he was not in the wrong there, but that's okay. He's kept on going and there'll be minimal damage to his car as well, so he's already looking quite racy here on the back of Samuel Rendell there, and he's going to have a big old dive, hit the curb there, nearly make contact, won't be able to get quite the run he was looking for and just have to cut back in behind there. He's got a car off in the background as well.
That's Maloney off the circuit in the background. We'll see if we can get a replay of what's happened to Maloney. We just saw, I'm seeing on the timing screen that he and Jimmy Ball were battling, and you can see there Jimmy Ball and Maloney just running a little bit wide and understeers. And then the rear wants to spin around. Another car off the circle. We'll stay with this replay. Jackson Susan Harlow slowly starting to catch up to the back of Josh Anderson as well at the front of the field. But there's a lot of action going on back in the field. The front two definitely starting to pull a bit of a gap on everyone else. You can already see the dirt starting to form on the circuit, which will be really hurting the grip of these tyres too.
Yeah, just watching this replay, it's just Vincent. He just lost the back end there, and that's the issue with these cars. You've got no drive in the rear wheels to try and snap the car back into position. You've just got to try and catch it, and the rear tyres, they don't have much to keep them warm either. I'm just watching Jake Maloney here. He's going for a dive down the inside of Adam Groves. They're nice and close through turn 1 here. He'll probably get the move done through turn 2, and there we go, job done. Now, we know Maloney's got a lot of pace, so the question is, can he carve through the field? He's still in 10th place at the moment, so top half of this field we've got tonight. So now he's really going to have to push, but we'll go back to Anderson and Susan Harlow.
Rendell and Lynch just made contact on the straight there under the bridge. And Simeon Lynch back into 3rd position. Will he hold on though? It's going to be a tough little fight here. He's going to struggle to hold on to this position because Rendell has a much better run. And Corey Preston, who's doing a very, very good job, is not far behind and might be able to get a move done too. I know he's been doing a lot of practice this week in these cars, so he'll be looking to make a little bit of an inroads into the front of this field.
Corey's playing a very smart game at the moment. He's minding his own beeswax, just hanging back there, watching what's going on because he's seen a bit of that carnage that's gone on ahead of him. And we know Corey Preston is a hard racer and he wants those positions, but it's a smart play at this point in the race. We've still got, a good 25 minutes left here. Just wait it out a little bit and see where you can get to because, one more dive bomb and he could be another couple of positions up the road.
That lap by Jackson Susan Harlow gained 4.5 tenths of a second on Joshua Anderson, and that gap is now under half a second. So Susan Harlow on the attack. He'll be wanting to take that first position away from Josh Anderson as Jimmy Ball loses a spot to Cohen Klopman as he makes his way back up through the field after that incident 2 laps ago.
doing quite well to work his way back up as well. So we've got a few guys with that comeback drive, which will make things interesting towards the back end of this race. But you're very right about Jackson Susan Harlow. The start wasn't ideal, but he's certainly turning that pace around to catch back up to the back of Josh Anderson there. So some nice little battle packs forming here, and I feel like Josh Anderson and Jackson Susan Harlow will be in a position to really battle it out in the next lap or two. They've definitely cleared the gap through to third place as well. They've got a nice little buffer at the moment.
That lap by for Susan Harlow, a 30.4, a 30.7 for Anderson, and everyone else is doing mid to high 31s and 32s. So these guys are well and truly the class of the field at the moment. As Nick Cummings side by side, and a little bit of contact between he and Corey Preston. And still side by side, these two.
What a great racing between these two. You know, absolute respect given. Corey's going to try get the under-over on in there. Don't know if it'll quite work. He probably couldn't get the throttle down early enough because of the front-wheel drive understeer that you'd get if you did. But he's right in that slipstream now, so we're coming over the start-finish line. He's going to try go to that inside line. Cummings has blocked him off quite nicely there. And, wow, great defence there from Cummings, holding the middle of the road. Wasn't giving him anything on either side, but didn't move at all from the middle of the road. Great defence there. Preston had nowhere to go to try and make that move.
And Susan Harlow now the closest he has been since the pace lap, because they weren't this close when the green flag flew. Anderson was already further ahead, so this is the closest these two have been since they pulled away on the pace lap. Susan Harlow just set the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 30.2. So these guys, well and truly the class of the field at the moment. But Anderson is feeling the pressure from behind. And Susan Harlow looks very, very strong.
He does. Susan Harlow, could be something to do with the tyres, could just be something to do with that start. But he's starting to reel him back in just a little bit. And he's looking a bit more comfortable. The lines are looking a little better for Harlow at the moment, but we never know what can happen as this race goes on. So, I mean, these guys are the class of the field at the moment, the times they're setting. Interesting to watch the body language of these cars as they go through the corners and the different lines, because even though they're the same car, the driving style and the setup actually makes them a very different car to each individual driver. So it's interesting to watch these guys and how they're attacking this circuit.
Corey Preston, Nick Cummings still going at it. They were side by side out of the corkscrew. So we flicked away to Jimmy Ball running off the circuit, losing a spot back to Jake Maloney. So Maloney's back into ninth. But here's a run from Preston. Will he be able to make anything happen around the outside? He's going to try.
Oh, that was very heavy braking from Preston there. He's trying to make that work. Got to be careful of Klopman behind him there, who's looking very racy as well. So Preston, Cummings, I think, is holding him up a little bit. And if he doesn't do anything soon, Klopman is going to really try to throw it down the inside. We've seen he's not afraid to do that, as we saw a few laps earlier. So Preston, he loses a little bit by trying to take those opportunities at turn one that are probably a little bit, you know, opportunistic to say the least. So he's really got to get alongside Cummings and make the most of it. As he drops off the circuit there, really not what you need. Now he's going to be hard on the defence against Klopman as they come into the kink here. Oh, majorly sideways as he comes up to the kink, out on the dirt again there, and will lose that position, unfortunately.
Just a little bit too aggressive going through the kink, and his right-hand wheels on the dirt. That was enough to lose that spot, so he's going to have to work really, really hard. And of course, we saw Klopman was in third earlier on in the race, so he definitely has pace. We do know that. So we go back to the front of the field because Susan Harlow did lose a little bit of ground at the start of this lap, but he's gained it all back again. Now looks strong as last lap by Anderson set the fastest lap at 30.0, and this lap by Susan Harlow with a 30.0 retakes the fastest lap of the race.
These guys are just seesawing at the moment, aren't they? They're just trading lap times, which is absolutely great to see. They're both on a very similar level at the moment. I mean, their qualifying times are separated by less than a tenth, and tenth and a half, and that just shows you. So these guys, I imagine they have their strengths and weaknesses around this track here, and depending on where each of those are, they're gaining and losing time. And I've just noticed then Anderson hit the curb and got a bit of that sausage curb, which I've noticed unsettles these cars quite a bit. So the run was a little bit compromised there. You've got to try to stay off those sausage curbs, or else you get this pogo effect. The car itself is quite stiff, and you can't afford to have that in a race situation.
So has Susan Harlow got enough of a run up the hill? He looks very, very strong here. Is he going to be close enough to be able to get a move done? Not yet, but Susan Harlow's just trying to work out where he can get this done, and you can see that Anderson's looking vulnerable here. He's starting to crack a little bit, making very, very minor mistakes, but when you're racing against someone with the skill of Jackson Susan Harlow, a minor mistake is all that he needs to get on through.
Well, that's it. Both these guys are immensely skilled, but you know these cars, one little mistake, you lose a tenth, and all of a sudden you've got Susan Harlow up there ready to take the position away. So you really have to be millimeter perfect to make this work. So we come across the line now. It's 3.5 tenths of a second at the moment. Harlow just having a little look there, trying to unsettle him if he's looking in his mirrors, making sure he knows there's a big old Altus car right behind him, willing to take advantage of that, of the move should it present itself. And he's doing that at most corners. He's just drifting towards, making it look like there's a move coming and then slots back in again. Just trying to force a mistake from Anderson. Just a pinch break is all it'll take.
Just get a replay of Maloney making a move up the inside of Emery Berkson. So he now gets himself back up into 8th position in his recovery drive. Now Josh Anderson feeling vulnerable here. Will he hold on to this position? Nearly at the halfway point of this race already. These races will fly by all season long. Every race in this championship this season, 30 minutes in length. So they will fly by. Some tracks more than others. This one, fairly short circuit, only 1 minute 30 lap time. We're looking around about a 20 lap race. So Susan Harlow, when I start to think about where he can get this move done, he's probably thinking the final corner. To me, I think the final corner looks like it might be the best spot to get a move done.
It offers, if you can get down the inside, it offers that opportunity to push your opponent just a little bit wide onto that AstroTurf, give them an off track for good cause, and then get your move done and get off there. The only thing I can think of that might bring that undone is that wide line, get a little bit more acceleration, and then you're gone. So you've really got to think about it from that sense as well. At Laguna, unfortunately, there's a defense for every move that someone can make. Harlow dove right to the apex then. He was hoping Anderson would run wide, but it didn't quite happen. So he was ever so slightly closer on that last lap. We're talking hundredths of a second here, folks. Like, he's just inch by inch reeling Anderson in as these laps count down. And, you know, we have probably about 12 laps left in this race. Laguna is a pretty short track, but by the looks of it, Susan Harlow is going to need every one of those 12 laps to really make this move work.
Oh no! Huge moment for Susan Harlow.
Oh.
Rear right, just clipping the dirt. And that could be race over for him because he's lost a spot now to Simeon Lynch. But that was a huge game-changing moment there for Jackson Susan Harlow to give away that second position and ease all of that pressure to Josh Anderson.
Well, Josh Anderson can probably take a breath now. He's been holding it for about the last 13 minutes, so he'll be able to take a breath and relax for a second. But Simeon Lynch now, he's got a big old target on his back now, and Susan Harlow has the crosshairs right firmly on the back of that Audi TCR. So I think Harlow will fight hard here, and Anderson has got to make sure he doesn't let his, guard down, because Harlow, if he fights hard, might still be able to make up that gap if Anderson gets a little bit complacent there up the front, just chilling out. So, you know, and that's the thing. These are short races, but we still have quite a few laps, and every corner represents an opportunity to make a mistake and lose time.
Yep, 100%. And seen how easy it is to make a mistake already in this race. So, seen plenty on cold tyres. It's one of the first ones we've seen since the tyres have come up to temp. And now Susan Harlow has given up a big chunk of time. Simeon Lynch, actually, the last 2 laps by, has set the fastest 2 laps of the race in the 1:29.9s and the 1:29.8s. So Lynch is looking very, very quick as he was starting to close back in on the 2 leaders at the front. So fair bit going on at the front of the field. Scott Larnack around. That's a strange spot to end off the circuit there. So we'll try and work out what's happened with Larnack, as now he's got David Haynes tucked right in behind him. Let's see what's happened with Larnack.
Have a look at our motion simulation replay now. So we're coming down to the turn 1 here, focusing on Larnack. Having a look down into the braking zone. Let's see what's going to happen here. Oh, they've both run a bit wide there, and Larnack has just lost control of his car after a slight touch with Gustavo Conde. And Gustavo got off light in that melee, and unfortunately Larnack's just been spun around.
Now Haynes and Larnack are going to go at it for the next little bit too, because Larnack's feeling some pressure from David Haynes, who's pace over the last few laps has actually been pretty reasonable. After having an issue on lap 1, dropped to the last car in the field, got back up to 16th position.
Yeah, David's actually doing some of his best laps of the race at the moment, so his laps are matching those guys that are sort of inside the top 10, so doing a very good job at the moment after those issues that he was having. And he's a little bit slow there, probably looks like he might have had a slowdown. The corkscrew lends itself to getting slowdowns fairly easily when you get that push accelerating down, so a bit unfortunate, but that's alright. Larnack is back on his feet now and continuing to push on.
So halfway through this race now, into the final 14 minutes of racing. Anderson leads by 2.8 seconds. He's just set his fastest lap of the race that last time by, 1:29.9. Lynch and Harlow both setting 1:30.1, so not able to make any inroads into Anderson on that last lap. But Jackson Susan Harlow, he'll be absolutely livid with himself right now because he has thrown away second position at worst from how he was driving. That one minor mistake is cost him about 2.5 seconds, but that's enough to throw away a big margin and a potential win because he was forcing minor mistakes from Anderson. So just see another big moment in the dirt there for Simeon Lynch. He just held on, and Susan Harlow with a much better exit might be able to use this momentum down the front straight.
And I'm sure he'll have a look. He might not be quite close enough this time round, but it's what he needs. Is he's sending cones into the air from pit lane, trying to get the ultimate line through that first kink on that front straight. But he won't quite get him at turn 1 there, but he's ever closer. He's just reeling him in bit by bit here, like he was Anderson. But this might be all that Susan Harlow needs to try and convince him to really push that TCR Audi hard and catch up to Simeon Lynch. And Lynch is holding his own beautifully against these guys. Considering his qualifying time was 4 to 5 tenths slower than these top guys, he's performing beautifully and consistently in this race.
Seen on the timing screen that Dave Roberts has lost a spot to Gustavo Conte and Slaven Kalerka just behind. So these guys very, very close. We'll stay with this battle here for a moment because these guys, bouncing off the curb there. This is Slaven. That was a little bit scary. You want to be really careful with those curves. As you said before, they're really, really stiffly sprung. So they do bounce quite a lot when you bounce them off the curbs.
And whether that's a setup, understanding that we haven't quite grasped yet because we haven't had these cars for too long, or whether that's just a natural TCR characteristic, we'll find out in a very short time, I'm sure. But right now at this track, the sausage curbs are very harsh too, so you hit one of them in most cars and you're getting a bit of feedback anyway, so it makes the cars look a little bit funny too. But we'll keep watching this battle here because Roberts is he's fighting hard here with Conde right up behind him. That is Slaven Kaluka behind him, pardon me, and Kaluka's looking for ways through, but Roberts not willing to give him anything. He's taking that hard line there, try and stop him, blocks him off a little bit on the exit there, but with still Kaluka looking for the run there, can't quite get it. Will drop back in for a little bit of draft down this main straight, hoping to make something work. Roberts, will he go defensive again? Will he hold that middle line? We'll find out here. He will go defensive, hard defensive. Kaluka is hard on the brakes there, trying to make it work around the outside. Probably won't be able to get it done. These temperatures don't lend themselves to high grip in that situation. Have to fall back in behind for the time being. We'll see if they nip this curb again. Maybe it's helping with the turn into the car. Just a little bit for Kaluka there. Won't be able to get anything done up at this corner, but we'll see at the next one. Kaluka does grab that curb. Maybe it is helping some of these guys turn it in, but we'll wait and see. I don't think he'll be close enough to pop a move, and he won't be. So he's looking for opportunities. He's doing exactly what Susan Harlow was doing up the front, trying to make his opponent nervous.
Susan Harlow round the outside. There's contact between he and Simeon Lynch. And Susan Harlow off the circuit.
That was a big save. That was a very impressive save by Susan Harlow there. He did a great job to keep that on the circuit. So we will get a modem simulation replay of that one so we can have a look there. But coming out of the corkscrew very, very close there. Susan Harlow throws it down the inside. That was an opportunistic move there, right down the inside. Lynch loses a bit of pace. They make a little bit of contact on that right rear quarter panel. Harlow does a very good job to save that from turning around, but unfortunately that has just sent him even further back after trying to recover.
I think there's just a minor little bit of contact here as Susan Harlow tried to cover off from Lynch, and it wasn't quite clear, so Simeon Lynch holds on to that spot. Susan Harlow, as you said, great save. Just dropped about a second back, and Red Mist will be well and truly going now, because they are absolutely, well, Susan Harlow has absolutely thrown this race away, unfortunately for him, but it's provided some very, very big entertainment in this race.
It has, and I think Susan Harlow is showing, that first incident was showing the temperamentality of this car, in that you can be driving fine and all of a sudden that back end can break out on slightly colder tyres because they're not getting activated as much as those front tyres with the drive and the turning going on through them. And then that second one was just hard TCR battling, which is what we love to see, and unfortunately in this case led to Susan Harlow going for a trip in the gravel, but Anderson's probably laughing now out the front. As long as he keeps it fairly mistake-free, he's living the easy life at the moment out there. So, and his times, they're not actually dropping too far from his best. He's only 3 to 4 tenths off his best time as well, so he's keeping a fairly good pace.
Scott Larnack's joined into this little battle that we were watching between Roberts and Kaluka. And his recovery after that incident not that long ago with Gustavo Conde. So Larnack now will try and gain himself a couple of spots. We've got, what, 6 laps to go? 7 laps to go? So not long left in this race to get some moves done. Dave Roberts is going to try and hold on, but he could lose 2 positions. Wow.
So he's just lost out. Susan Harlow is back into second place. Sorry to interrupt there, Jay, but I just noticed him slowing down and pulling off to the left of the circuit. So Susan Harlow is now back through on him.
Item simulation replay up on screen. Where did he get that? I'm going to say the next corner here. Cut it a bit too aggressive. No, not sure where he's got that one.
He's definitely slow there. He's holding 4th gear as he comes off that corner, so that's a bit odd. Whether he's held that, it's a bit hard through those corners there. You usually you have to cut it very, very deep in there, but we'll flash back to live now.
Oh, Kaluka off the circuit. There's contact between Kaluka and Larnack. David Haynes goes through on Kaluka. There's side-to-side bumping there between Larnack and Kaluka coming out of that corner. And Larnack through into 14th position now, but we're going to go back away from this battle because Susan Harlow is now defending from Simeon Lynch, and they will continue for the next 5 laps. I'm hearing that possibly that Lynch has actually just redressed that position, which I don't think he really needed to do.
Flash back to David Haynes real quick here.
Oh, no.
Oh, the contact's been made. Haynes is nearly around. Same situation as Lynch and Susan Harlow. They're racing hard here at the moment. So Haynes off in the background there, but Roberts is fighting. Roberts gets a hit in the back there from Kaluka by the looks of it. Just a tap there. Haynes is still trying to reel them back in again after that contact. So it's all going off here for the minor positions.
Also some issues at the front of the field too. We're hearing that Anderson's not having a smooth run as well, but just saying that Lynch hearing possibly redress the position, which I don't think he really needed to do.
I mean, hats off to him for doing it. Like, you know, that's a real true gentleman for doing something like that. But personally, we've had a couple of guys say in the YouTube chat as well that that was a racing incident. And personally, that's my view of it too. It was just, you know, guys battling it out hard. One guy turned in, one guy was there, and that's all it is. But good on him for redressing that position. You know, that's what the sport's all about, is good sportsmanship.
Definitely agree on that. So we'll see how this fight goes for the next little bit. But Susan Harlow and Lynch will continue on. Also, Klopman and Cummins getting very, very close as well. Last couple of laps, Klopman's been around about 1.5 to 2 tenths quicker. So Nick Cummins will be feeling the pressure behind as well. So these guys will continue on for a fight for a top 5 spot over the next few laps. Klopman last lap by 3 tenths quicker. So Klopman's really closing in the gap with 5 minutes to go on the clock.
Yeah, we've got about 4 laps left here, Jay. So this, you're right when you say this flies by. There's a lot to watch as well. So we'll look at Klopman here because he's He's been fighting back through the field. He's actually nearly back to where he started in this field. So he's got Cummings up next on his on the hit list of cars. He's trying to get back by again. So you got to remember, Klopman was hovering around third earlier in this race, so he's still got some unfinished business. Having a little look there, it's not really a great overtaking opportunity unless you're side by side at this corner here. So you've really got to hold it in there pretty much for this whole sector, all the way through the corkscrew before you can think about an overtake. But you've got to set it up. A lot of commentators always say motorsport is about setting up for the next corner or the next overtake. So got a great run through the kink there. Having a look, just seeing corkscrew's not a great overtaking opportunity. It can get pretty messy. He'll keep it nice and tight in there. Try perfect that run. Actually got a very good run there. Use the momentum of the corkscrew to help shoot him out of that corner. But I don't know if you'll have a chance to make the overtake work here. He's pushing hard. You can see the car is squirming as it comes through some of these corners. It's just not going to be quite close enough. Number 12 there gets onto the dirt. Still won't bring him in close enough as they come round to start with about 4 minutes left to go in this race.
Yep, so Nick Cummins will try his hardest to hold off. Corey Preston's also closing in. Last lap by was 8/10 quicker than Nick Cummins. So Corey Preston is not out of it. Of course, he had some issues before, and just see him in the background there, sideways under brakes as he closes in. But Klopman looks like he is ready to take this position away. He's just not quite able to find the right spot to do it.
Oh, he wants that position bad. You can tell the way. You can look at the body language of that car, and he's looking. He's hunting for a position to make it work, but it's just not happening. And all the positions he needs to be closer in to make the overtake work, he's just not quite there. And that is the biggest issue in motorsport. It's making it up to the guy is easy, overtaking him is hard. And that is exactly what we're seeing here, is that he's made it up to the back of him, but now he's being held up, and guys are catching up behind as he's trying to make the pass work. But the number 12 goes wide there of Roberts. Oh, this could make it interesting as we come up into the corkscrew. They're going to be side by side. Roberts tries to squeeze him just a little bit there. Watch into the corkscrew here.
Oh, good
Great
driving.
racing from these guys. What amazing driving from them. Side by side through the corkscrew, but not a lick of contact. And again here, oh man, this is a great display of what we love to see from TCR racing.
And have a look at Corey Preston. Great momentum there. He's just used that little bit of side-by-side racing that the other two had to try and take the spot away. Now they're 3 wide at the exit of the final corner. 2 laps to go on the clock. So this is going to come right down to a very, very exciting finish. At the front of the field, Susan Harlow and Simeon Lynch still separated by half a second. But Klopman now into 5th position. Cummings and Preston well and truly in this fight for that 5th spot. But Klopman looks strong. Nick Cummings looks vulnerable here to Corey Preston.
I think so. Cummings just doesn't look like he quite has that pace as he bounces off that curb there, and the car... Yeah, the issue with these curbs is you can't get on that throttle as early as what you'd like. So you hit that curb and you've got to wait an extra second, and that leaves you vulnerable to the guy behind. So Klopman already pulling distance on the likes of Cummings and Preston. But Preston looking very strong, very steady in these closing stages. Could well try go for a move on the last lap or two, particularly if Cummings isn't quite settled after that mistake last lap.
Yep, 100%. That is very, very possible. And here, another little mistake through the kink. Preston, 2 wheels in the dirt, and he's still gaining position. How has Preston done that? And he's almost close enough to get the move done, not quite able to finish it off. And Nick Cummings will chop the nose off on the exit of the corkscrew, but this isn't done between these two.
Preston wants this. That 2 wheels in the dirt, that shows you exactly why he's here, and he's here to get this position. So that would bring him a position up on where he started, and I think that'd be a good night for Corey Preston. So he's we're coming around, I believe, to what'll be the last lap now. From what my timing's showing me, Preston blinking a little bit here, but now over the start-finish line. He's coming right up behind here on Nick Cummings. Will he be able to make a move work here? He's gone right out wide there. Maybe try cut under him. But again, the grip just isn't quite there at the end of a 30-minute sprint race on a hot track like this. You just don't quite have it. What is he doing? Oh my goodness, he's trying to use the dirt as the black stuff. He's trying to use that to set up his moves. Oh my goodness. And now Cummings slow out of that corner. Preston is He's going to try to set it up again. He's going for anything he can get at the moment.
I must say, Preston is using some very, very interesting lines, but Cummings is also being very aggressive in his defence too, so no real surprise to see Preston trying to do some different things. We're going to go back up to the second and third place battle because Lynch is well and truly back in this now. He's right there. They will know that it's the final lap. The clock is about to hit 0. So this is officially the final lap of the race. Anderson well and truly out in front. But second and third not settled. 6th and 7th not settled. And Preston is well and truly back in this. We're going to stay with our leaders though because Josh Anderson wins the first Strength of Field broadcast here on SimSpeed TV of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. Susan Harlow will hold on for second. Lynch will get third. But Corey Preston has got through on Nick Cummins. We'll get a replay of that in a moment. Rendell in 4th, Klopman in 5th, and Preston will take 6th. Maloney, what a drive to get back into into 8th position. That's a fantastic job from Jake Maloney after that start.
It is, and after having contact and spins and everything, he's really done well because he probably went back to about 15th, 16th in the end. So he's worked really hard to get that car back up into position. And hats off to Corey Preston and Nick Cummings on their battle, and well done to Mr. Joshua Anderson on winning the first soft, and with some absolutely intense pressure from the likes of Jackson Susan Harlow for the first half of that race.
A couple of battles still going on right at the end. It looks like Dave Roberts lost out to Slan Koloka in the end. And, a few of the other guys have all made it home. Everyone's actually made it home in the end. We had one DNF. But what a fantastic start to this series. Josh Anderson picks up the win. 6.1 second win in the end over Jackson Susan Harlow, with Simeon Lynch in 3rd. Samuel Rendell in 4th. Cohen Klopman in 5th. Corey Preston in 6th. Nick Cummings in 7th. And Jake Maloney comes home in 8th.
So in 9th, we've got Emery Berkson. 10th is Jimmy Ball. 11th, Gustavo Conde. 12th is Scott Larnack. 13th, Mr. David Haynes, who had some interesting battles throughout the race there. Adam Groves, 14th. Slaven Kuluka, who we saw in the thick of it, in 15th. Dave Roberts, 16th. Vincent Uensa, 17th. Bernd Halbeisen, 18th. Michael Kirkham, 19th. And our only DNF for the night, Sergio Vicente, 20th.
Fantastic start to this series on SimSpeed TV. We'll be here every Thursday night for the remainder of this season for the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. Next week we will head to Alton Park running the island layout, which should be really, really cool. A different layout from what we would normally see in our official series. So looking forward to running that, as we said, next week here on SimSpeed TV. But we've got a huge few days coming up on SimSpeed TV as well. Tomorrow night on the iRacing Esports Network, we will have the Parramatta Isuzu Ute AOSC, the 650 kilometre race from Circuit of the Americas. Saturday night, we will have the major series from the Milwaukee Mile in the Lotus 49. Sunday, we will have AOSC. Monday night, the iRacing V8 series returns. Tuesday night, just Senate. And as we said, next week, we will be back for more action. Brock, thanks for jumping in tonight. I'll tell you what a start we've had. It's only going to get bigger, better, and stronger from here.
Yeah, happy to do it, man. I'm really looking forward to the next obviously 11 rounds of racing that we have in this iRacing official series. And, these guys, they raced hard tonight, but for the most part, it was really respectful and really fair racing that we saw. And to the point where Simeon Lynch gave up a second place and championship points to be fair to Jackson Susan Harlow and make sure that the racing was done right, because obviously in iRacing we don't have drive-throughs in official series or anything like that. So I was impressed by the racecraft out there and by the respect given by the drivers, and I really hope we get to see more of that as the series goes on over the coming weeks.
A big thank you to everyone for tuning in. Make sure you do subscribe here to us at SimSpeed TV. Also, follow us on Facebook. We also are live on Twitch as well at SimSpeed Esports. But until our next broadcast tomorrow night on the iRacing Esports Network, we thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week for the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge from Alton Park. Until then, we thank you for watching.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God!
Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get
these guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God.
God, what?